So I want to talk about a number of different ways that you can do QSLing, and with a big focus on some of the things that are now available online to assist you in QSLing. So I have my contact information. You're going to want to download the presentation from the website, and from there you can click on all the links. You won't be able to do that from here.
Yeah.
So the presentation will be available on the website. And you can get to it with this little shortcut, tiny.cc/QX3. So one of the first things that happened is as soon as hams started talking to each other, the first question was they always wanted to know if the other person could hear them. So that was the first question. Then as soon as people said they could hear each other, then the next question is, how strong is my signal? And then after these two questions, the next one was, could you send me proof so I can go brag to my friends that I talked all the way across the state last night? So the next thing was the idea of written confirmation, not just being confirmed on the radio, yes, I can hear you, but writing a letter or a note to someone telling them that you heard them and you want to be able to let them know that's the case. So this was born the QSL card. The first QSL cards, of course, were not even necessarily anything special. They were just written on the back of a postcard or on a piece of paper, and they were a little letter. So you see a letter here, and this is from 1921. It's one of the earliest known written QSL cards. Radio station 8 X-ray Echo. And you might not be able to read it there. So it says, "Dear old man, heard your signals here quite often. We would be pleased to do DX with you. Our schedule is," and this is actually, he's requesting a schedule with him to handle traffic. So right after that, people said, well, I'm writing my call sign on the card all the time, so I might as well just get it printed there. So you'll see the advent of printed QSL cards in the early 20s. The ones here, I think one of these is from 1925, one's from 1927, and I don't know what the date is on the other one. 1924. Well, eventually printing got pretty cheap, and they were able to start making cards with not just one color or two colors on them, but full color photos. So this is my newest QSL card. I've had a couple over the years, and I just put this one together. Matter of fact, I ordered cards about 2 weeks ago, and they should be here in another 2 weeks. This is going to be the front of my card and the back of my card. And the back of it has a spot where I run it through the printer, and it prints out this other station's information. If you have any questions, just please feel free to click the little raise hand button, and I'll acknowledge you and let you ask. This is my previous card, and this is a link to a whole collection of QSL cards I've uploaded. I've scanned some of my cards in. I also have some of the cards from the eQSL, which I'll be talking about later. So if you want to go through, I think I have about 500 cards in this collection of different places I've worked. And I don't have all my cards scanned, and I usually try and scan in the good looking ones. So this is just an example of some cards. This card here, this JT1CO card, is really nice in person because all this card is highlighted with gold. It really doesn't show up in the scan picture on it, but it's all gilded. So it's a very interesting card. So why do people exchange QSL cards? Well, the first thing was the whole idea of personal accomplishment, proof of context. Not only did I talk to someone, but I can show someone a piece of paper confirming to my friends and relatives and everyone that I talked to all these people. And the easy way to do that was post up in the shack, which we'll be seeing here in a moment. The next thing was, for a lot of different awards, the way you got an award was showing proof of working stations, and QSL cards were that type of proof. QSL cards are also fun. I like them. They're nice and colorful. Nothing more that I love than getting QSL cards. And also, even if you're not that interested in QSL cards yourself, be aware that other people are actively pursuing awards and trying to get QSL cards. So it's nice to be able to confirm their contact with your QSL. So again, if you're not even interested in collecting them, please use some of the means that we're going to talk about tonight so you can confirm other people's requests. I like the fact that they reinforce memories, friendships. It's so nice when I talk to someone on the air and I have their QSL card right here in the shack with me, and it brings back memories. And I'll talk to the person as soon as I hear them. I say, "Oh, you're the person that has that card with the big pumpkin on it," and they'll laugh. And the one guy said, "That was my card from 25 years ago. I haven't had that for a long time." So it's a nice memory prompt, and they're visual to go along with the audio of a QSO. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about with eQSL is the fact that it is an electronic system, but it still has visual QSL cards that go along with it. So this, as in many of the things in the slideshow, this is a whole presentation right here from the ARRL on the basics of QSLing. I'm not going to go over that tonight. I'm going to focus more on the electronic formats that are available, but this has all the basics. So if you're just getting started and you need to know more about QSLing, this link will take you out to a presentation from the ARRL, and it's everything about QSL cards. What is a QSL card? What information needs to be on it? What not to put on it? Basic designs, how to fill out the card, what happens if you make a mistake, etc., how to send the cards. So this is right here in the presentation, and it's this picture right here is the link, or this word up here that says presentation will get you there, and that'll give you the basics on QSLing. So what I want to talk about next is I'm going to do some comparisons and some contrast with some of the things about QSLing. And the first thing is, how can you exchange QSL cards? And there's basically three different ways to do it. The first way is to physically give someone a paper card. Now you might hand it to them in person. You might give the card to them via mail, or you might send it via the QSL Bureau, which we'll be talking about here in a few minutes. And there's also a couple other bureaus that you can use. There's some services that'll print your cards for you and send them out directly. So not only do you order the card, but you order them with all the information on them and send out to the people that you need to get the cards to. On the far right here, in the blue section, we're going to skip the green section for a minute. You can exchange QSLs electronically. And these are all done electronically. There's no physical card involved in these methods. The ARRL Logbook of the World, eQSL, QRZ Logbook, they're all electronic. Now, in the middle, we have this hybrid method of doing it. And there's something called OQRS. And it basically means online QSL request. And this is a fairly new thing, and I'll be talking about that as one of the methods a little bit later. You can also send an email request to someone saying, could you send me a card? And depending on the person, they might be willing to do that without getting a card in return. So you would just email them saying, this is the information I have, or are you doing that? Now what I do is sometimes I use an email request not to ask for a card, but to make sure I'm in the log before I spend money. If I'm sending direct postage to someone that's in a place that's going to cost a lot of money to send it, I might send an email saying, I want to send you a QSL card. Am I in the log? I just want to know before I spend the money on a card and the postage to your country and the return postage back here. Am I really in the log there? So there's nothing wrong with doing that. Now, the other type of hybrid is sometimes you'll just get cards sent to you unsolicited and with no expectation of response. You will get unsolicited cards because people are going to send cards to you that they want you to respond to, but sometimes people will just send cards to you that they don't want you to respond to, but they just want to confirm the QSL, and we'll talk more about that later. But it's mainly big D expeditions or contesting or special events where they know a lot of people want the card and they really don't want your cards because they're not worried about collecting cards from 10,000 people. So when you're exchanging cards, some cards are better than other cards for different purposes. For awards, most of the awards accept physical cards, so they want physical cards. Now, there are some exceptions to that. There are some awards that you could only get via electronic QSLing. A couple years ago, the ARRL did a project where they had the parks on the air, and that was only through confirmation of electronic QSLs. Paper QSLs were not used for that, so that's an example of an award where physical cards would not work. The Logbook of the World is good for all the ARRL awards and a few other awards also, but not a lot. Physical cards, of course, as I said, are the more universally accepted for awards. There are some other awards that are good there's some other types of QSLs that are only good for certain limited awards. For example, there was an award a couple years ago with Canada, where you submitted your log and they took your log information and then they confirmed it with their own logs internally, and they used that to generate the QSLs, the awards, I mean. As far as exchanging QSLs, if you're interested in visual QSLs, Logbook of the World is useless because you don't get a physical picture, you don't get anything. It's just an electronic data confirmation. And I'll show you how that works a little bit later, but it's not a physical card. It's not an image. It's not an electronic file. It's not a PDF. It's not a JPEG. It's nothing like that. It's just a confirmation. So Logbook of the World is not any good for visual. Physical cards are good, but eQSL, even though it's all electronic, sends JPEGs of QSL cards. So you do get an electronic image there. And QRZ, you can get some electronic images there, visual images there, I'm sorry. So you can get an idea of what some people's information looks like that way. Now, as far as personal accomplishment goes, any or all of the different methods of QSLing work for that. Exchanging physical cards, there's a couple of advantages and disadvantages to physical cards. One of the advantages is they're good for almost all awards. They're visual. You can put them up on your wall. You can display them in your shack. They come in a wide variety of very interesting styles, and they're just fun to play with, and they're fun to display and to collect and things of that nature. There are some disadvantages, though. The first disadvantage, of course, is the cost for printing the cards and then shipping the cards, whether it's for direct postage or for via the bureau cost. By the way, bureau and borough are the same, referring to the same thing. Bureau, B-U-R-O, is the abbreviation that was used in CW all the time. So a lot of times they double arrow. QSL bureau is just called the borough. The other disadvantage with physical cards is they're somewhat time consuming. You have to take the time to fill out the card, put the card in the envelope, address the envelope, send the envelope out, or pack them up to send them to the bureau. So there's some time involved. And then on the back side of that is, let's say you're applying for a award and you need to find that card from a certain country. Well, depending on how good your filing system of cards is at your house, it may take you a few moments or it may take you a few months. So storage and sorting of cards can become time consuming, especially when you have a couple thousand or 10,000 cards in your possession. So I have some cabinets all over the house here, and if you ask me for a specific card, I'd be hard pressed to go find the card, but I can find the electronic confirmation in a matter of seconds. So if you're exchanging cards via direct mail, so these are obviously physical cards because you're mailing them. There's the disadvantages and advantages of physical cards, plus there's some additional disadvantages and advantages of direct mail. One of the advantages, as I said, they're good for all the awards. They're slow getting cards back and forth through direct mail, but we're talking days or weeks as opposed to months or years that the bureau takes. So even though they're slow, they're still much faster than the bureau for exchanging cards. It's personal because when you're sending cards directly, you get an envelope in the mail, you get some stamps on it. I used to collect stamps, and it was fun to get the stamps, so that was nice also. They're very low tech. You don't need to have any special logging software or anything special to do them. You can handwrite their cards if you want, and they don't even have to be fancy in being printed. Now, there are some disadvantages to direct mailing of cards, and probably the number one thing is the postal cost of sending the cards out. And if it's a card from a foreign country, you can't just send them US stamps. You have to send them postage or a way for them to buy postage in the foreign currency that they can use to send the thing back to you. So you can't just mail them some US stamps. Now, a lot of times what's requested is for you to get cards back from foreign countries. They'll ask you to send green stamps, and that's basically dollar bills, because dollar bills are good most of the places around the world. The problem is there's some places where it's illegal to have US currency, so that you don't want to send the stuff there. Second, they are very tempting for people to steal. Unscrupulous postal people, anyone that might come across that letter on its way between your house and their house, it's just too easy to want to steal postage, so that can be a problem. And there's a lot of information written on direct mailing of cards and hints and tips to be able to do it better. And then there's also the time. And the thing that I find most consuming when I'm sending direct things is the time to address the envelopes and make sure the right card goes in the right envelope. Nothing worse than addressing the right envelope, doing another card and putting it in the wrong envelope and sending it off to the wrong place. You've now wasted all your time and money. Exchanging cards via the ARRL Bureau. It's good for all awards. They're cheaper than direct mail, although the cost went up considerably, but there was a lot of outrage at that, and they went back the cost down, so the costs are lower again. It's by far the best method of sending a large volume of physical cards because it's based on the weight that you're sending out. The disadvantage is it's slow. What happens is the card goes up to Newington, Connecticut. It gets sorted out by country, and then they ship in bulk whenever they get enough cards to send to that particular country. So let's say it's for Germany. When they get enough cards for Germany, they ship a package to Germany. After it gets to the other country, it usually has to go through a reverse dispersal system where it might go out to specific clubs who then put them in envelopes and send them to the individuals. So there's both the outgoing QSL Bureau, which has a fee associated with it when you're using it, and then the incoming QSL Bureau, where you have to have information available at the incoming bureau. And I'll talk more about that in a few moments here for the 8th call district. It's also time to print and sort, etc. And you must be a member to send but not receive QSL cards via the bureau. The other thing that happens on the other end, the person has to be a member of his country's bureau to be able to receive cards and send cards. So sometimes the connection is not possible. Some people do not accept cards via the bureau because they can't respond. So right here I have 3 links. Excuse me one second. 3 links for information on the ARRL outgoing QSL Bureau. And you click on it, they'll give you all the information you need. And here's the fees and everything. The incoming bureau. And then the 8th district incoming bureau. So this has general information about incoming bureau, but this is the specific information you need to use if your call sign has an 8 in it. Now, it's not where you live, it's the number in your call sign. So Jim and John, with those 3 calls, they have to deal with the 3rd district call sign bureau. So I don't know how that works, but the one for the 8th call district is very good. And each person is assigned a manager based on the first letter of their suffix. So for example, with my Z, that means a KB8ZYE handles my cards, and here's his email address. And he's nice because I can just send him a check, and then he buys the envelopes and puts the stamps on them and everything to return the cards to me. So that's the bureau. And I'm not going to talk a lot more about the bureaus because we just don't have time tonight. That's a whole talk in itself. Just want to mention one thing. That envelope sits there at the bureau until he gets it full of cards, and then it gets sent to me. So I don't get it every couple months. And K8ODP Linda, my wife, knows that that's the best thing to hand to me when I walk in the house, especially if I've not had a great day. So she's been known in the past, I think, to hold them for a few days until she knows it's going to be of her most benefit to hand it to me that day. So I've accused her that many times. But there's nothing better than getting that envelope full of QSL cards. So let's talk now about one of the electronic means of exchanging cards, and that's Logbook of the World, LoTW. And it's good for all the ARRL awards. It's fast and easy after you set it up. Now I'll talk about setting it up. There's a little bit time consuming. You can't just do it immediately today. It actually takes a couple of days to set it up. So I'll talk about that. Membership is not required to use the Logbook of the World. It's accurate and secure, and there's no storage or sorting. Everything is handled electronically, so there's no filing cabinet full of cards somewhere. It's good for ARRL awards only and a few CQ awards, but not many. So it's mainly for ARRL awards. There is cost involved. The only time there's cost involved is when you actually use it to get an award. Just QSLing back and forth, whether you're sending or receiving logbook confirmation, logbook of their confirmations, logbook of the world confirmations, there's no cost at all. So registering and using it doesn't cost you anything. Only if you're applying for awards do you have a cost. We'll talk about that later. Now, there is no visual image at all. It is simply an electronic data that is exchanged. So you can't display them on your wall. You can't even print them out and display them. So this is the way, this is a flow chart of how it works. So here's my station, K8ZT, and I worked this gentleman, N1UR, and I submitted the record electronically. This is the data that went to the ARRL, submitted it, it gets accepted into their system and goes into the computer. And then if the other station submits the information and the two match, if there's a match between them, and that match would then mean that there's a QSL's match. So each person would be issued an electronic notification. Here it is right here. This is my information saying that who I worked, the station I worked right here, N1UR, his state, his zones, etc. And he gets a similar electronic verification with my information on it. So that's the way Logbook of the World flows. Now, for this match to take place, the QSL description specifies a call sign that matches the call signs of another station. So the two station call signs have to be exact. So I had to make sure that I have the call right and the other person has to have my call correct. If both calls are not submitted correctly, there will not be a match. So they have to match. The second thing is both QSL descriptions must have start times within 30 minutes of each other. So when I send my record out, not only does it have the station's call sign, it has the date and time that I made the contact. And if the date and time don't match within 30 minutes of each other, they will get rejected. They also have to specify the same band. It doesn't keep track of the frequency. So if I'm off a little bit, my frequency that I report, if I report 7.0124 and the other person reports it as 7.098, that's fine because they're both in the 40-meter band. It'll still get a match. Both QSLs also have to have the same mode, either an exact mode match like upper sideband or a specific mode belonging to the same mode group. So if I say that it's single sideband, another station reports it as upper sideband, that is still a match because they're both in the same mode group. So that is still acceptable for the match. So that is Logbook of the World. Any questions about Logbook of the World?
Yeah, this is John W.
Yes, John.
Say somebody else put in, submitted a contact. Is there a collection in say my whatever you call it of contacts that
no,
are,
you never see another person's submission unless there's a match. So in other words, you can't go looking through this what other people submit and say, oh, I should send in a Logbook of the World for that particular QSO that I didn't realize I made. So that's what it is. It's a blind match. So neither side knows whether the other side has submitted a QSO until they match. So that's one of the security things. So you can't just go looking through it and say, oh, I should have sent a card in. I didn't realize I worked this guy. No, that doesn't work that way. Any other questions? We'll talk a little bit more about Logbook of the World later, but any other quick questions?
Yeah, Anthony, it's Don. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing hand logging up to just recently. I just started with the N3 FJP software. And when I put that in there and then did my first download from Logbook of the World, I got things back and realized I made some mistakes because all the hand doing of it and then hand typing them into a file, sending them in. Can I correct those and send them back in?
Yeah. The way you do that is because it's a blind match system, you never take a record back from them that you submit. They all just sit in there and you just resubmit the new correct ones and it'll automatically update your records. So that's the thing. If let's say by accident one day I had the date set wrong on my computer and I send 400 QSOs in with the wrong date on them. Well, they're not going to match. And there's no way for me to get them back. So what I just need to do is resubmit those with the corrected date on them.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. So let's talk about eQSLing. We'll come back and we'll go through Logbook of the World step by step as far as using it. But advantages and disadvantages of eQSL. Now, eQSL is eqsl.cc. It's an online service, and we'll look at it in more detail later. But some of the advantages are it has visual images involved. Even though they're electronic, they come to you via a download of a picture. So you can download a picture of the QSL card. It's fast, it's easy, there's no storage or sorting, just like Logbook of the World. The disadvantages is it's only really good for two types of awards. Awards from eQSL and a few other limited awards, some of the CQ awards. But other than that, it's not good for a lot of local or small awards. It's not always accurate. Now, the blind matching that occurs in Logbook of the World doesn't happen the same way. So you can actually go through and see people that have sent requests for you that you have not submitted something from. So that is one of the reasons why it's not always accurate. The other problem is it's not real good. With Logbook of the World, we'll see in a few minutes, each time you change locations or operate from a different place, you have to create a new record for Logbook of the World. With eQSL, it doesn't easily do that. So if I operate portable with Logbook of the World, it doesn't always tell the person exactly where I was at. So I don't like that fact of it. They haven't really figured out a good way to deal with portable operations. So the next thing I want to talk about is one of our hybrid methods, and this is called online QRS, QSL request, or OQRS. It's the same as cards as you get via the mail or the bureau. In other words, it uses physical cards, so you get paper QSL cards, just like you would if you went through the mail or the bureau. It's faster than both of them for the most part because you're starting it off with electronics for requesting the QSL, and then it has to take the time to get back to you. But you're not sending a card to someone then waiting for a card to get back. It's pretty easy to use. There's no card printing cost or addressing for requesting it. In other words, when I'm requesting a card from someone, I don't send them a card. They're willing to take my request without getting a card in return. Some of the disadvantages, it may have fees. The person who's doing OQRS can decide how much they want to charge you. So if they want to, they could charge you $5 or $10 for a QSL card if that's what they choose to do. It's not available for all hams, only hams that choose to do it. And I'll show you a couple of ways you can do it. It's hard to find people that are on OQRS. So someone might be on OQRS, but you might not realize it. So you might not realize that you can use it that way. Sorry about that thing that popped up on my screen. I'm not sure why all of a sudden decided it wanted to tell me what the spots were on the bands. There's also no storage there's storage or sorting of physical cards is the same because you're in the end product, you're going to end up with a physical card, not an electronic record. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of some of the different ways. I'm going to take a second here, take a drink. Sparkling water, by the way. You can all take a drink now too. So preparation for electronic methods. One of the big downfalls for a lot of people to using any of these electronic methods is the fact that their logbook is on paper. And so you realize if your logbook's on paper, if you want to do any of these electronic versions, you have to put your QSOs into an electronic logbook. So you might want to start putting all the new ones in there, but then eventually you're going to want to go back and put in all your old paper QSOs to be able to use the electronic system fully. You need to enter any records for QSL cards that you've gotten previously that you have never put into the system. And then you need to register and set up for Logbook of the World, eQSL, and QRZ, which I'll be showing you how to do all three of these in a few moments here. If you set up Logbook of the World, there is also one more additional step to link all the paper QSLs that you have on file, all the QSL records you have on file with ARRL. So if you have a DXCC that was applied for with paper QSLs, you have that attached to your Logbook of the World account, so it knows that you've already confirmed that country on paper. So you don't need to redo it again for electronic. So This is a list, and again, as I said, when you download the presentation, you can click on any of these links and get more information on it. These are programs that are electronic logs. You'll see some of them have a fee, some are free. These are all ones that are able to handle Logbook of the World. They support uploading and downloading of QSLs from Logbook of the World. And as I said, when you download the presentation, you have access to clicking on any of these, and it'll show you information. Now, most of these are logbooks, but some of them, like N1MM, is not really a general logbook. It's more of a contest logging software. And I would not suggest that you use it as your main method of keeping track of all your QSLs. It gets really messy. The same thing with WriteLog. So even though you can exchange information with Logbook of the World, it's not very good because it doesn't have a way to download the information from Logbook of the World. They're really, for these two, it's just a way that you can upload information. So it doesn't do you a lot of good, although it can do the other people on the other end a lot of good. So if you're not interested in QSL cards, after you use N1MM, you can push your information up to Logbook of the World and never worry about downloading anything down from there. So those are all software that works with Logbook of the World. So let's go through step by step and talk about setting up Logbook of the World and using it. So again, when you download this presentation, this is the official link where you can get all the information from the ARRL, but it gets a little bit long and a little bit complicated. So what I did is I went through and sort of simplified it into a couple slides here. So the first thing you need to do is you need to realize that Logbook of the World works with a program called eQSL. And eQSL actually installs on your computer, and it's a piece of software that's used to exchange the information that you have on your computer with the Logbook of the World servers at the ARRL. So you need to download and install eQSL, and it's free to do that. And let me bring it up here real quick. It's starting up, but I'm not sure where it went. Oh, there it is. So this is what it looks like. Can you all see that? Can someone let me know if they can see that?
Yeah, you got it, Anthony.
Okay, very good. So this is the eQSL software that you use, and you might use it all the time, or you might only use it when you're setting Logbook of the World up. You don't need this if your logbooking software handles the day-to-day functions, but you do need it to get started. So eQSL is required when you're getting started with this. So after you install eQSL, you need to go in and request a call sign certificate. And you go right here and you'd request a call sign certificate, and it'll bring up this little thing, and you have to put in the information. Once you do this, and I'm not going to step all the way through this because I already have it set up, you put your call sign here and all this information. After you complete all this, what it does is it sends a notification to the ARRL electronically. But here's where things slow down a lot, because after you do that, you have to wait for the ARRL to mail you back via US postage a postcard. And they do that as a security measure. And as an added security measure, they only will mail it to the address that you have on file with the FCC. So if you do not have your address current at the FCC, you need to make sure you correct it with FCC first before you do this, or you'll never get your postcard. Usually takes anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks to get this card. Usually about a week, week and a half is typical. So if you want to start Logbook of the World, download eQSL and get that request out to them so you can get the postcard back. When the postcard comes back to you, you take the postcard and you go to this ARRL website and you put the information in here that they give you along with your call sign, and you click on the submit validation code. This code is printed on the postcard, and that's the only way you're going to get it. They don't email it to you. They don't call you on the phone. You got to wait for the postcard to arrive. After you do that, that website will send you an email with your Logbook of the World account password and your call sign certificate. Now, a call sign certificate, also known as a TQ6 file, is the file that actually tells the TQSL program that you have a validly registered license account with Logbook of the World. So that's the proof. That's your hidden password that gets attached to all your information that you send to the Logbook of the World to prove that it's actually you submitting it. So what that stops you from doing is I can't go in as pretend I'm P5 XYZ in North Korea and send myself a QSL card to K8ZT. So that's why you go through this big dance, is to make sure you're really you, and that every time you submit cards, it's really you submitting them. So you would double click on that file in the attachment, and it installs it into the TQSL program. And if you look here, you'll see in my TQSL that I have there they are, certificates. And here's all my certificates showing up right here. You notice that I have a certificate for K8ZT, one for KA8NRC, which was my previous call, one for Linda because she uses the same computer as mine, K8ODP. I have one for KO8HIO, which is now no longer valid, but I still have a certificate because if I need to QSL someone from the time I did have that valid call, I need to have that certificate. So more than one person can have a certificate, but the certificate is only good during a certain time period. So I can only sign QSLs that were made during the time that I had that license. And then I have W8KSU, which is I'm the call sign trustee. So those are the certificates that I actually have. So after you've done that, the next thing you need to do is you open up TQSL, and I'm going to put it on the side here so you can actually see it. And you come in here under station location, and you add a station location. And we can do one of these. We can just pretend we're doing one. So you pick your call sign from the list of the active ones you have. You put in a grid square. So let's say I'm operating portable in FN01. I need to put in that information, and I also need to change, if necessary, I need to change the CQ zone because it'd be in CQ zone 3. And it's not an island on the air, so I don't put any information in there. I would then click next, and it would ask me what state it was in. It's in Pennsylvania. So I pick Pennsylvania here, and it's in Butler County, so I pick Butler as the county. And then let's say I was at a state national park, I would pick that national park. Now I'm just gonna pretend it's in there. That's not really correct. And then I would click next, and it says that's an invalid zone for the state. So I'd have to go back and change my zone here because this is in zone 3. It's zone 5. Yeah, it's zone 5. And it says it's not the correct grid for the location. So I need to put all the right information in. So it's not going to let me do it right now, but I would create one of those every time I created a new location. And here's all the ones I've already created. You see that I have one for my house, one from when I operate from Bolick, one from when I operate from the library, one from Beaver Creek State Park, Dayton, Amateur Radio Clubhouse, Hocking Hills. So everywhere you operate from portable, you'd want to create a new logbook of the world so that when the person gets the information, it would have that I was in East Glacier National Park, Montana, not in Ohio in Summit County. So once you've created all those, then you can start using the logbook of the world. Now there's 2 ways to upload your QSLs. You can do it directly from in TQSL, where you can grab a file that you've downloaded from your log, and you can sign that log and upload it. So if I download an ADIF file or a Cabrillo file from N1MM, I could actually click, open that file, and then I could submit it that way. I don't ever do that. I use my logbook software, and it supports directly doing that, so I don't have to do it manually every time. So depending on your logbooking software, it can make it real easy or hard to do that. Now, when you want to apply for awards or look at your progress, you go to Logbook of the World site, and from there you can log in. And you can't do anything with submitting logs here, but you can go in and see your status of your progress towards award. So if I go in here, it'll show me my DXCC totals. You notice here's my total of Logbook of the World confirmations. This 110 is the ones I did on paper. Remember before I said you can associate your paper DXCC records to your Logbook of the World records. So that's the information on that. I'm gonna have to move a little bit faster here. But as I said, the easiest way to use Logbook of the World is through your specific logging software. So if you have one that supports automatic uploads and downloads, it makes it a lot easier to do than doing it manually through the TQSL software. Now, the only time you have to pay a fee for Logbook of the World is when you want to use it for applying for an award. So every time you use a QSL that's a Logbook of the World record for applying for an ARRL award, you're charged 12 cents per record. So if you're applying for your work to all states and you need to use 50 QSLs from Logbook of the World, that means you'd be having a fee of 50 times 12 or $6 for your fee, which is a lot cheaper than the stamps it would cost you to send to all 50 states. And then the award fees that you'd pay are separate from Logbook of the World fees, and the same as if you'd submit the cards, paper cards to them to apply for work all states. Any questions on Logbook of the World? Okay, our next one I want to talk about is eQSL. And eQSL has its information here. You can read all their presentation. I put together a little short, quick slideshow here. So the first thing you need to do is you go to the website and you register your call sign and your country, and you click on the register button, and then it gives you this big form to fill out. The interesting thing is you need to fill out almost nothing on this form. You just need to fill in your call sign and your name and your street address. That's really the only thing on here that you need to fill out, whether you're an individual group. And then you need to put down when your license started and when your license ends. And you put a date in the future, put 20 years in the future for that for your license ending. You put in your county and your state and all that information. And then you click on the button and it says, thank you for registering with eQSL. And then the next step you get is you get an email from them, and you have to click on the email to verify that it's you. Once you do that, they send you a code from that email. You put the code in, you click on finish registration, and you are now registered. That's all you need to do to be able to use eQSL. Now, there's a couple other steps to make it more effective and to make it better. You can sign up for a paid membership, which gives you extra features, but you don't have to. You can still just do the free one. The thing that you should do, and there's no charge for this, is called authenticity guaranteed. And that's where you upload a copy of your license to them. Because remember, we didn't show them any paperwork. We just filled out a form. We didn't give any proof that we had a license. So this is a way to get this little guaranteed authenticity feature. Once you do that, you can log into the software. This is what it looks like. Now, you exchange an image of your card, and this is the default that it generated for Linda's card when I just punched in the information, and it would have the other station's information at the bottom when you actually exchange the card. They also have a number of limited images you can use for free and have your card look, oh, there's about 12 different ways. This is just one of them. Some of them are pretty ugly, I think. This is one of the least ugly ones. But if you're willing to pay a few dollars to join, you can have your card look like anything you want it to. So this is what my card looks like because I have a lowest level paid membership. The ARRL does not accept eQSL for its awards. CQ does for most of their awards except eQSL. But eQSL also has its own series of awards, and they're all free if you just want to download the certificate. If you want printed copies of the certificate or trophies, you have to pay for those, but you can get the paper copies, I'm sorry, the PDF formats for free, and then you can download them and print them yourself. So these are just 4 that I've earned so far. I've earned a bunch more, but those are the ones I just printed out real quick. Any questions about eQSL?
Yeah, Anthony, I
Yes.
heard a lot of people had problems of some kind. I don't remember right now with
Yeah,
QSL.
there's been some hiccups over the. It's been around for almost 20 years, but there's been some hiccups sometimes.
So, do you recommend adding it to your
Yes.
list? Yes.
Yes, because there's one thing that's great about it that Logbook of the World doesn't do, and that's the fact that you get those electronic images. Let me show you real quick on this QSLs here. These are QSLs that I scanned, but some of them are ones I received from eQSL, so I didn't scan them. And you can tell the difference. This is one from eQSL. So you get this nice card as a image file that you can save. You could print if you wanted to. This is another eQSL card. So all these ones with this little gray area on the bottom are all eQSL cards, whereas you don't get any kind of image at all from Logbook of the World. So I like it. It's nice, I think.
Okay, thanks.
So let's talk about hybrid QSLing. And this is something, this has only been around for a few years, but it's pretty neat the way it works. You can request the QSL confirmation electronically. Then you receive a physical card just like you would if it was mailed to, if you use the bureau, use the bureau or direct mail. So you start with your computer, but the end product is a paper card. So this allows you to request a physical card via an online website. So it's a lot faster in some cases, but it's something the stations need to opt into. If they don't opt into it, you can't do it. You can choose to have the card delivered via the bureau or direct, depending on what the person is willing to do at the other end. Some people only do direct, some people only do bureau, some give you a choice, some charge you for one and not for the other. So it just depends on the person. There's no one way that fits all on this. I'll show you some examples. So there may or may not be a fee. Fees for a direct card are usually between $2 and $5, and that includes the card and all the postage and everything to you. So it's not a lot more than sending green stamps to someone in the mail. You don't have to worry about the currency exchange or anything like that because you usually handle it through PayPal. Most of the people that do cards through the bureau, though, don't charge. So it's a great way to request your bureau cards without sending a card and waiting for your card to get there and then it come back again. Unfortunately, there's no one site. There's no OQRS website that you go to. You have to use a bunch of different sites and you have to find the stations that are doing it. Probably the most popular one now is Clublog, which I'll talk about in a lot of detail later. But there's also all these other services. These are all OQRS services. Plus, most the expeditions now have their own OQRS service right on their website. So a lot of times when you work these newer DXpeditions, you can go to the website and request a card from the website without sending your card in, because they don't really care about getting your card. They work 50,000 cards and they don't really care about a card from Ohio. So a lot of the expeditions are doing this now. They don't have to deal with the volume of cards coming into them that they really don't want. So let's talk about doing OQRS using Clublog. And I'll bring up Clublog here real quick so you see what it looks like. Clublog has a lot of different features of it. OQRS is just one of them. So this is Clublog, and it basically is a place that you can upload your logs for free, and then they're matched with other people's logs who upload their logs. It's used a lot by contesters and DXers, but there's no charge for it. So if a person does have OQRS available on theirs, you would put in their call sign, search with your call sign, and see whether you get a match. And see, it said here, it said, this is the log I searched, and it said, this is my call sign, and it says I have 2 contacts on single sideband on 80 meters, 3 on CW on 40. So I've worked this guy quite a bit. So I would then click on this little thing down at the bottom here that says, come on, back. You can't see it because this thing is hiding it in front of it, but it says request card. And once I go there, it would say, what card do you want to request? And then it gives me a choice whether I want it via the bureau or whether I want it direct. This person charges $2 for cards, or each additional card is 0. So when you're ordering one direct card, you can order 5 direct cards. They're going to print it all on the same card probably, so there's no additional card charge for them. So it's a lot cheaper than going direct or even going through the bureau in most cases. Can I have a bite of that banana, Steve? Steve has a banana he's enjoying, by the way. So after you do this, after you request it, then the next thing you have to do is you have to log out. And if there's any fees involved, you have to pay the fee via PayPal there. Once you finalize this, then you sit and wait. And hopefully in a short amount of time, a QSL card will show up in your postal box. Hopefully it won't be in your box like that. Hopefully it'll be in an envelope. I just got some cards from someone that came in an envelope that was absolutely soaking wet. They came all the way from a very rare DX location just to get soaked in my mailbox. You can also use something on Clublog called QSL chart, and I'll demonstrate how that works here. I'll actually just show you how it works. It's much easier to show you. So I've uploaded all my logs. I'm going to go to where it says QSL charts, and it'll show me each of the countries, and for that country, it'll show me other people, whether I've confirmed that country or whether I've just worked that country. If I've just worked the country and not confirmed it, it'll show me people that I could possibly QSL with. Now, sometimes it'll just show them, but other times it'll say, hey, for Albania, you worked this guy, ZA portable IW2JOP on 17 meters. You matched. So that means he submitted a log, I submitted a log. It says, do you want to request a card for your OQRS? I click on that. When I do, it says, you can do that. Now, I've already done this one, so let me find one that I haven't already requested to show you how it works. So you can see, this is nice because it tells me who I've worked and who I've confirmed and all that. So it's fun for that, but it also has this OQRS feature in it. Let me scroll down where I know that I've not requested one. Okay, I don't think I've requested one from here. So let's see what happens on this one. Okay, I've already requested these, but on this one here, I can request another card because I didn't request it. And I can request a direct card. It's going to cost me €3, which is a little under $4. And when I would click on that, it would say that I want to get the card direct, and then I would check out, and I would need to pay for the card to finalize this. So I'm not going to do that, but I would use PayPal to do it. So that's all it's involved. Let me find a free one here, and we'll actually submit it. Okay, now see, this person no longer has it available, so that wouldn't work with OQRS. They had it before, but they're not doing it now, obviously. I've already requested those, so let me find someone I haven't requested. It's just so easy to do that I do this quite often. I've already requested those. I think I've already requested this one too. No, I haven't requested that one. So if I want this card, I could pay $350 and request it direct. This person doesn't have bureau, but if they did, there'd be another button here that would say bureau, and I could request it that way. So I think you get the point on how that works. And actually, I showed when I did the card earlier, I did Norfolk Island, and I checked out and got that card via the bureau. And I recorded a video, so you can watch the video. I'm not going to play the video now, but you can watch the video of what I just did. Now, one of the neat things about OQRS on Clublog is you can actually set it up so you can do it yourself. So you can sign up so that people can request cards from you. But remember, if you do that, you need to be able to return the cards to them. So you fill out this little form and you say whether you want to do direct cards or bureau cards, how much you want to charge, and then people can request your card. Now, you probably won't get a lot of requests. I probably get, I'd say maybe 5 to 6 requests a month from people for cards for the bureau. I only take bureau. I don't have paid when available. Let's talk about unsolicited cards real quick. As I said, they're cards that come to you that no one expects you to return anything, but most of them come via the bureau. So if you don't have an envelope on file at the bureau, you won't see these cards show up that are waiting for you. So you need to make sure that you go to the ARRL 8th Call District Bureau, and make sure you have an envelope on file there. So if you're not using the Bureau already, you're going to want to read that whole thing on using the Bureau and get envelopes there. If you have questions on that sometime, just ask me in person or give me a phone call, and I'll be happy to help you on that. Let's talk about QRZ.com. Oh, any questions on Club Log? Places to think about QRZ. Most people think about QRZ as the place you go to find someone's call sign. So, you know, if you go to find their information, if you go to QRZ.com, you need to register. There's no charge to register, and it gives you a lot of extra features. You can then pay a fee if you'd like to have more things, but let's just do a search here. Let's search for N8LGP. So there's Steve's information, and he was nice enough to include an email. That doesn't come automatically. He put that there, so that's one nice thing to have. And I could come in here and look at the details and find out his location, take a look at the map, and find out where he's at. It also points to my location, so that's the direction I'd be point to him. So this is real nice. I can look up another call here. And that's the guy that, remember, we saw the QSL card from. Guess where I got that picture at? And people can put a lot more information if they want to in their biography. This guy has a lot of pictures of nice tropical location in Aruba. So that's QRZ.com. So you can get all this information there. But in addition, there's also the ability to have a log there and to get awards on QRZ.com. But before we get to that, I just want to tell you, you go to and you register, you fill out the little form. Once you do that, you can edit your biography. You can add an email address. You get an online log that you can upload your contacts to. You can add pictures, and you can use the forms, the discussion forms on their website once you're registered. So this is what you do to sign up for an account. This is what the log looks like after you upload your documents to it. Your QSLs to it. And the nice thing is other people can search for their call sign in your log to see where they're there. So if I'm getting ready to send out a QSL card and it's going to cost me a lot of money, a lot of times I'll go to this and check to see whether they have confirmed. In other words, if they've confirmed, that means they've submitted a log that matches my log, so I'm going to get the QSL card back. Once you have your log uploaded to QRZ.com, you can start getting the awards. And there's no charge for the online awards, but you can buy a printed certificate if you want to. And these are all the awards they have. They just added these last two, Master of Communications Europe and Master of Communications South America, in the last couple months. And I just qualified for both of these. So when you go into the awards and you click on the Analyze button, it'll go through and look for that award and give you a chart. And this chart is long because it's all the countries in the world. And it also gives you this nice little map showing all the places you've worked in green, confirmed in green, worked but not confirmed in yellow, and not worked in red. So you see where I need a few countries here, or one country here, and some countries out in these islands. Does the same thing for worked all states, so it gives you a nice record. You can see that I got worked all states, all bands except for 6. I still need to confirm. I've worked 2 states that I've not confirmed on 6. This is the Master of Europe award. It shows I've worked all the countries in Europe except for 1, Mount Athos. And I've confirmed all the countries in Europe except for Mount Athos. So it's very easy to use QRZ.com. Just register. There's no charge. You can pay a fee if you'd like to use some special features on the site, but you don't need to do that. If you do nothing else, please register so you can go in, check your information, and make sure it's all correct so that others, when they're looking you up on QRZ, will have the right information. Now, what I did here is I recorded, any questions about QRZ? What I did here is this is the logging software I use. It's a paid software called Logic by PDA, and I've been using it since their DOS version with DOS 3.2 back in the old days. So I've been using it since the early 90s. This is the way I do my Logbook of the World QSO uploads. So when I'm uploading to Logbook of the World, from stations that I have in my log. I click on a couple buttons, and it basically looks at my log, finds everyone I've not sent up a logbook of the world confirmation for, and sends all the new ones up. So I'm going to play a little video here so you can see how it works. So I basically click on this little button that says Export Logbook of the World, and the screen comes up, and I click on the Export button, and it lets me set special dates here, but I just say everything. And it'll go through and look and says there's 12 contacts I've not uploaded before. Now, one of the things I do is tell it where these are all made. So I can only upload contacts that are made at the same location at one time. So these are all from my house. I click on another little button, and now it's in the background. It uploaded them. It's done, and it marks them all in my log. It'll put a mark right here on my logbook where it says Logbook of the World sent. It'll put a little checkbox there. So that means it's done. So that's all I ever do for my Logbook of the World. And it's very similar to the way it works downloading also. And this is this is importing or downloading from Logbook of the World. So I'm going to go ahead and say import Logbook of the World QSOs. I'm going to change the date here because I didn't have the date set right on that. Click on import. It'll go out and look and see whether there were any matches since the last time I downloaded. I usually do this once every day or so. It's nice to get a QSL card immediately, QSL confirmation immediately. And that's what happens a lot of times on Logbook of the World. I'll work someone and within half an hour I'll have a confirmation. So these are the stations that are blank down there that have not been confirmed. When I click on that, it imports them, it's done. And it then marks right here. See how it marked that Logbook of the World finalized, it had it completed. So each of the different types of software work differently, but that's the software that I use. So that is the end of our presentation for this evening. I have some time for questions set aside, but before I do that, there's some other presentations that are available here that you can click on to view. Here's again where you can download tonight's presentation, tiny.ccqx3.